Hello, everybody. We're here today with Andy Hamblin from LiveDOOH Signkick, Aimee McKay from Clear Channel, and Fiona FitzGibbon, the founder of Diversiffi Media. I'm going to get them all to say hello. They can wave at you.
Hi.
Hi.
We're here to talk very quickly about AdTECH Out of Home London conference, which takes place on Thursday, May the 20th, as part of London Digital Signage Week. Andy Hamblin has kindly agreed to chair the event. He will also be chairing the AdTECH Out of Home event in Amsterdam, which may end up becoming AdTECH Europe, and that takes place early December. But we're not here to talk about that today. Signkick recently merged with LiveDOOH. So Signkick are one of the most innovative companies out there in the out of home space, and LiveDOOH are equally innovative, and they merged together. Andy's going to run the event for us for the first time, so I'm sure he'll be fine. We will.
We'll find out, Adrian. We'll find out.
We'll find out soon. Well, you'll know by 6 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. We've got a small in-person event. We have to keep stressing this in its weird times, of course. This will be one of the first events in the AV, digital signage, digital out-of-home, AdTech industry for over a year and a half. Obviously, most of 2020 was missing. We did hold AdTech Sydney last September as an in-person event, thanks to the Australians keeping a wonderfully good lockdown. But this will be the first event that we've had for some time. Andy, do you just want to say what you're looking forward to this particular event?
Yeah, sure. Actually, the first thing that I'm really looking forward to is being in a real room with real people. And Adrian's playing it down a little bit. I think he told me on a call last week that it was actually 451 days since the last London AdTech event. So he has been counting the days to the next one. And I've got to say I am too now, which is great. So we've got a really good lineup of speakers coming along. Starting with, for me, a bit of a godfather of the UK out-of-home industry, Mungo Knott. Mungo is now the commercial product and platform director at Global, but previously of Posterscope and Prime Site. And going back 20 years when I first met him, when he was my boss's boss's boss, he was already pioneering automation with things like Prism Plan, which was a Posterscope system to systemize selection of poster sites so that they could hit client KPIs. And he's continued sort of doing that across all the roles that he's had.
Mungo, of course, is still the co-chair of the Outsmart Standards Committee. And back in 2016, when we started the AdTech conferences, they were in the very first days. You would have come along, Andy, I know. They were programmatic workshops, and we had 2 half-day programmatic workshops, which Mungo was very instrumental in putting together. And then the next year, 2017, we did our first full-day AdTech conference, and then we quickly moved to Amsterdam. And I think, Fiona, you've presented at Amsterdam a few times for us as well now.
I have, yes.
As well as being a regular in London. So, but without Mungo, it certainly wouldn't have started. So he's going to be the keynote. Andy, what are you expecting him to say?
That's a very good question. Mainly he's going to be talking about DAX, which is the exchange for out of home. Obviously, Global have successfully launched DAX audio in the radio and audio space, and now they're bringing that same programmatic technology into the out of home space. So I'll be really interested to see what he's got to say about that as well, which yeah, I mean, there's a few different players in that market. Obviously, you've got View, and in the US, you've got people like Place Exchange. So they all have a slightly different.
And of course, USP. Yesterday, Clear Channel International or Clear Channel Europe made a big announcement, with Launchpad. So I don't know if you'll touch upon that, Aimee, in your panel. Is that your?
Yeah. I think it would be remiss of us not to talk about that. If I'm honest, that's our sort of gateway into programmatic as a wider European business. So yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so that's timely because we've only got a couple of weeks to go, so that's good. And then Andy, so we've got Mungo, and then you've got good old Tim Harvey, who's another stalwart in our industry at the end of the day.
Yeah, he's going to be bookending us. So I think his subject title is kind of controversial or a bit challenging, maybe. So how many AdTech people does it take to change a light bulb? Tim's also been consulting with the Standards Committee with Outsmart, helping to build out the Open Direct specifications, which are alternative to the sort of traditional open RTB programmatic space. And now he's also assisting publicists with their sort of newly established out-of-home team. So with another one of the panelists, Curtis. So I think Curtis is on one of Aimee's panels, and he's one of my favourite people to speak to about the future of out-of-home. And I was just wondering what are you going to be speaking with those guys about?
Yeah. So we've got a great lineup, and I think with Curtis, we'll just need to make sure we put a bit of a timer on him, because he's a man that can speak forever. Bless him, love him. So on the panel we've got Jill Hoover, who's Chief Client Officer at Posterscope, and she brings a really nice mix. She's got a wealth of out-of-home experience, but she's also comes from an agency background. As you mentioned, we've got Curtis Ware from Publicis. I think he'll bring a nice dimension. Publicis recently bringing the planning and buying for out-of-home in-house. And then we've got Chloe Wells, who's joining us from Talon. So a really good mix across all the specialists. And Chloe, again, will bring a really nice sort of dimension to the conversation, having experience, working in a channel that's kind of gone through a programmatic journey, having come from the likes of Global, which she worked on the audio side, but also from Spotify as well. Oh, wow. So I'm really looking forward to a really nice lineup, and I think we're going to talk a lot about all things out of home, as well as programmatic. So we'll need to dip into audiences, to data, to flexibility, creativity, accountability. But I think certainly we'll talk about all the out-of-home sales channels, because programmatic is just one of those. So spoiler alert, programmatic isn't the silver bullet and solution for all clients and campaigns.
Or is it, Aimee? Or is it?
A lot of debate around that, no doubt. But I think one of the things I'm really looking forward to is talking about these time horizons. And I really like how Curtis has kind of coined that. We talk about, the need for programmatic, but, thinking about the immediate buy versus the long-term sort of securing out of home 8-12 weeks out and everything in between. So I think that's going to be fascinating.
Wow. I didn't know that about Chloe's background. I'll tell you, this is one of the things that I really like, is that our industry now is getting more and more people with varied backgrounds. It's not just the traditional 10, 15, 20 year out-of-home veterans coming in. So, Chloe having worked on audio and say with Spotify is great. One of the other things that I think Fiona's picked up on this as well many times on the panels she's run for us over the years in different geographies is, the role of the specialist and the need for good people. A lot of companies seem to think that ad tech or programmatic is a way to get rid of good salespeople. Fiona, I think you've had a very strong opinion on this for some time. Will you touch upon that in your panel, do you think?
Well, not really. My panel is very much about the role of the DSP. Okay. But on that topic, I think you're absolutely right. I think we've got to remember that programmatic out of home is a transactional platform. It doesn't suddenly, as Andy said, it doesn't suddenly drive new revenues into the sector. It's transactional, but programmatic's done two things. It's created new opportunities and new roles and new jobs through the platforms, which is really, really good. But we still need to really understand what is out of home, what is its benefits, what does it bring to the party, what does it introduce into the mix? And we still need people who have a real understanding of the media itself. So that's always been, I suppose, my point, that it's not just now tech, it really still has to have true understanding of what we bring to clients for their effectiveness and efficiencies in campaigns.
Right. Okay. And then Andy, you've got a fireside chat. A conference wouldn't be a conference without a fireside chat.
Yeah.
I guess.
And Adam's Adam Pace, who's now at Talon, is one of those people that you were talking about earlier. He was the former chief digital officer at OMG, and he's come into the out of home space. And so I'm kind of interested. Like my journey in out of home has been with a trajectory towards digital, and his has been from a trajectory from digital towards out of home. Right. And I think that's something that we're seeing more often. So there's digital skills coming into the space. People are upskilling their staff so that they can sell on an audience basis rather than on a time basis. And there's all of these thoughts going on at the same time as the technology is starting to really kick in and enable clients to achieve the sort of KPIs that they've always wanted from out of home, but haven't been possible because of the technology backing it all up. So there's this huge infrastructure change going on in the industry, and the software that supports the transactions and the planning is starting to catch up with that infrastructure change. So I'm really interested what interested Adam to come into the out of home space at Talon and talk about where he sees the future. So I think that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, Amy's touched upon that. We've got Jill from Posterscope. She's a first-time presenter at our conference, which is great. Publicists are a first-time presenter at the conference. And Fiona, you've got Wavemaker. You've managed to persuade Wavemaker.
Oh, I have. Yeah, we've got a really, really good panel. And we've run this. It's quite interesting. We've run this panel in, as you rightly say, we've run it in New York. We've run it in Amsterdam. We've done it in London. And it's a really interesting topic because the market's moving so quickly all the time. So there's always fresh ideas to talk about, new developments and new perspective. And if you think specifically over the last 12 months, more than ever, we've seen such a huge acceleration of AdTech adoption. And a topic that's always been raised, and Andy just touched on it, has been programmatic standardization in the out-of-home space. And quite rightly, Tim has made considerable progress in that area. So that's one of the topics we will touch on, but probably not to the same level as we have done previously because, you know, the step change has been significant. And as you say, we've got 3 amazing panelists coming this year, bringing their viewpoint, and they're bringing that from working across key clients, from an agency perspective and specialists. So we've got Alice from Kinetic, we've got Rob from Wavemaker, and we have Gordon from Spickley. So it's, you know, a really good selection, all coming with their different perspectives. And I think this year, as most years in this particular space, we always talk about data. Data is always a key subject. And within that, it's, you know, what does a specialist DSP offer over the biggest or the more established omnichannel DSPs, and how have those specialist DSPs, how have they evolved in our sector over the last kind of 12 months or 18 months? So that's going to be quite interesting because, as I say, that's moved a lot. We'll talk about the impact in out of home in a post-cookie world and what are those opportunities. So that's obviously a hot topic right now. You know, what are the opportunities rather than the negative side, because there are loads of opportunities for us to work with there. Data, again, it's kind of, you know, that's fundamental in driving programmatic out of home. And, you know, how do we ensure that data is clean and it's fit for purpose? How much data is too much data? We often talk about, you know, what does that mean? And do we ever lose sight with so much data of the consumer experience? We'll have a look at that. And then I think we'll also really key is kind of cover that business outcomes versus measurement. That's something that, you know, can't be lost in the new language and the transactional platforms that we talk about. It's really key. And the question to ask everyone, I might ask Andy now, seeing as he's sat there, is, you know, what are the modifications that we're now looking for in the out-of-home DSPs that would bring greater confidence and clarity? Because that's something that's constantly driving. What's your view on that?
That's a whole other 3-month-long conversation, right? So there's lots of things like driving change within the industry. So there's accountability and verification, which is you know, a prerequisite for most other media buys. How can you be more accountable? There's transactional models which enable new things. So how do you target specific groups of people in a more granular way, but still make it work? So mass personalization of media on a sort of you know, even an international scale, from you know, Clear Channel's announcement earlier about wanting to do programmatic on a European basis. And then there's the audience application. So how do we evolve the audience measurement that's driven planning in lots of markets from a historical point of view to being a more live source of information that really helps you with that attribution. So
absolutely, yeah, I agree. I mean, attribution, I think, is a really big deal. I think that's a big thing that we need to cover as well. So yeah, I agree. So yeah, we've got a really good panel. I think we'll, I'm sure from now until then, I'll find a few curveballs to tuck in just to keep it a bit lively, as we like to. But yeah, really looking forward to it. I think we'll do it justice.
That's brilliant. Okay, well, thank you all. It's not very many weeks to go now to the event. It will be in person. We have to keep reminding people. This is the big change in the last year and a half. When I ask people to speak or to buy tickets to come to events, it's in person. It's not a virtual event. So we have, I think we have about 12 or 13 speakers who've all agreed to mask up and come along to Samsung King's Cross. It's a retail space, so we will be wearing masks and we will be socially distancing. Got a small audience. The one thing that we can announce now is the fact that we've agreed to stream the event live. We put a bit of money into putting it up on YouTube Live. So we've got a big camera team. And so we think it should be quite a good production. It's not just a camera locked off at the back of the room. So you should get some nice close-ups of the speakers and the panelists and the audience. Yeah, I know.
That's not good.
Sorry. We'll put some Vaseline on the lens then for me and Andy. So it will be streamed. We will be announcing where you can access that. So we think we should have quite a nice big audience virtually as well. So hopefully this will be the first of many events this year as we come out of lockdown. It's a lead up, I think. Andy will certainly see it as a lead into our Amsterdam event, which is traditionally held in December every year. I'm very excited because the Clear Channel Europe thing fits into that really nicely. That's just an obvious shoe-in as a presenter, as a conversation. I spoke with Mungo and his chief strategy officer the other week. They're thinking, I believe, of launching into Europe as well. So again, that's something for them. We signed up View as a speaker in Amsterdam as well towards the end of the year as well. So I think Andy got excited. We're talking about if you've got View and you've got DAX and you've got Launchpad, we're now starting to get some real intensity in the whole space from a marketplace perspective, I guess. So it's exciting. So hopefully this little teaser that we've put out on YouTube will be enough to get you to either sign up for the day, come along. I think there are a couple of tickets left. But we'll see you very soon on May the 20th. So thank you, Andy. Thank you, Aimee. And thank you, Fiona.